Well, good morning, everyone. It's really wonderful to be with you again as we have another one of these very short and bite-sized kind of morning prayers. This is a time just 4 or 5 minutes long where we look at a particular reading from the Bible. I do a little reflection on it, and I encourage you to do the same throughout the day. These are on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. So we're working our way through Mark's Gospel at the moment, and we've got to chapter 12. And what's happening now is Jesus is really starting to make a nuisance of himself, and especially those in authority in the religious places, the Jewish authorities, are really starting to get tested by his behavior, by the way he's speaking, but also by the way he's making them look. And they're constantly looking for ways to kind of trap him almost, and they're really starting to think they need to take care of him. So they've been in the passages before the one we're going to read. There's been this kind of build up and even dialogue between Jesus and the religious authorities, the priests and the elders who are in charge. And they're continuing to try and trip him up, to try and find a reason to properly discredit him and to get rid of him. So this is Mark chapter 12, and it's starting to read at verse 13. And this is paying taxes to Caesar. Later, they sent some of the Pharisees and Herodians to Jesus to catch him in his words. So you see what I was saying there. The Pharisees and the Herodians, there you've got some of those Jewish kind of religious guys, and again, they're sending them to catch Jesus out in his words. So they came to him and said, "Teacher, we know you're a man of integrity. You aren't swayed by men, because pay no attention to who they are. But you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. Is it right to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Should we pay or shouldn't we?" But Jesus knew their hypocrisy. "Why are you trying to trap me?" he asked. "Bring me a denarius and let me look at it." They brought the coin, and he asked them, "Whose portrait is this? And whose inscription?" "Caesar's," they replied. Then Jesus replied and said to them, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." And they were amazed at him. Now, the backstory to this is at that time when Jesus was there, the Roman Empire, and especially the Roman Emperor, were very, very unpopular, especially amongst the Jewish kind of cohort. And there were kind of pockets of people who refused to pay taxes to Caesar. And what they're trying to do here is to try to include Jesus in that kind of rabble. Quite a lot of Jews flatly refused to pay taxes. And it was one of those things where they believed that paying taxes was an admission of the Romans' right to rule. So what we've got here is people trying to entrap Jesus and kind of put him with that crowd to say, "Oh, you're one of those kind of rebels, aren't you? You're one of the troublemakers." And we see this in other places, even in the kind of when Jesus arrives into Jerusalem, which we'll come to in a few passages' time. That sense of people celebrating him there, but a lot of them celebrating because they think he's the one who's going to overthrow the Roman Empire. And what Jesus does here, and what he does at that when he comes into Jerusalem on the donkey, is he's actually doing something completely different to what people think he is doing. And he isn't led away from that task. He isn't kind of diverted from it. And also he wants people to focus on what really matters, what the big story is. Paying taxes to Caesar was not where the problem was. Paying taxes to the Roman Emperor was not what the issue was. The issue was people were not giving to God what was God. They were not giving their hearts and their lives and their souls into following God. That was the issue. And we see Jesus pointing that out here. And I love the way that you can see them trying to manipulate him. Just those kind words to try and put him in that place. "Oh, we know you're a man of integrity, Jesus. We know you're not swayed by men. You teach the way of God. So there, is it right to pay taxes to Caesar?" And that trying to win him over into making a mistake. But Jesus knows their hearts. And he goes, "Look, paying taxes to Caesar or not is not the issue. The issue is your heart. It does not belong to God. You're operating out of your own desires. So I think there's an importance there. Now, with this passage as well, there's a sense of what is our societal duty. So the notion of us paying taxes is something which is quite important, and what taxes we pay and who pays them and how much is always up for debate, always, constantly. It's always a debate that comes around. How much should we be paying? But there is a sense that actually us collectively giving something out of that which we earn so that all of us can benefit, there's a wonderful thing in that. That's a good thing. So again, there's something in here of Jesus going, no, that's not the problem. That's not an issue. Now, I'm not equating Roman times to these times because it's almost impossible to do that. But actually, what it's getting to is the heart of the matter. And we need to be doing that. So often, I think what happens is we get distracted and diverted by causes and by things that bother us, and sometimes they're good things to get diverted and distracted by. But the major thing that we have to ensure is that our own hearts are given to God. Give to God what is God's. So what belongs to God? What belongs to God? Well, primarily, we do. We belong to God. Our lives, our hearts, all we do and all we are needs to be part and belong to God. So what Jesus is really saying to these people, and I believe he says to us now, is before you start worrying about those things, before you start thinking about should I pay this, should this tax be, before you do any of that, you need to give to God what's God's. And that starts with us. We need to give ourselves to God. Today, have a think about it. Read the passage again for yourself. Mark chapter 12, starting to read at verse 13. And think and reflect and pray, God, have I given you everything that is yours? I'll see you guys soon.